Now, we read about her in the Bible as a woman who had incredible faith and radical obedience. But the first step she ever took was leaving her land. And what you'll see in every one of these stories, 3 shocking truths. Let's start with number 1. Number 1 is they left everything behind before they ever knew the story. Somebody talked about Rebekah. Rebekah, which I think is a beautiful story. And I'm going to get into that. But let me just make sure I hone in there. They left everything behind. They left everything behind before knowing the outcome. Ruth left her homeland. Rebekah left her family. Esther left her entire life. She had to talk to the only person that ever raised her through a gate. She left everything behind, and it really wasn't even her choice. What I'm saying is the number 1 thing that we do not talk about is in order for these women to reach the purpose that God had for them, they had to leave everything behind. Everything they knew. They had to leave their families behind. They had to leave their friends behind. They had to leave their homegirls behind. You want to know why that is? Because a lot of what we see today is that when we see that in the Bible it says men leave and cleave. The Bible says it actually directs men to leave and cleave. Why is it only men? When you see more women in the Bible, expect every woman we see in the Bible left and then cleaved. Why is it that the Bible is saying men should leave and cleave? Because that was a revolutionary concept. Men didn't have to leave and cleave. Women always did. That was custom. They had to leave with the purpose of creating their own unit with their spouse. That is why women, it didn't have to be defined. But if we see today, family, if we see what happens today, where we don't want to leave our family, we don't want to leave nothing behind, we don't want to leave what's uncomfortable, we don't want to leave, we want it to just come to our door, we want an Amazon Prime delivery. I saw a video today that made me laugh so much. This guy was pretending to be a woman of God. He was like doing a woman of God thing. And he's like, this is how Christian women expect to meet their man. And literally he's like, he's in the prayer closet. He's on the floor with a box on him. He's like looking at the door and he closes it. He's making a joke, but it's the truth. Nowhere in the Bible did women just stay home. That doesn't mean they was, and that's going to bring me to my second point. But my first point is they had to leave everything behind. And it wasn't like random, oh, I'm leaving everything behind. They often did not know the outcome of leaving everything behind. Esther had no idea the king would choose her. Rebekah left not knowing anything about the man she was marrying. Rebekah's main test, which I'm going to get into now, was she willing to leave? And here's the thing. Abraham was that dude. Because he was willing to leave his land, because he was a man who was walking in faith, he got everything he wanted. They treated him like a prince in wherever he was at. And he said, I'm not going to let my son come to my hometown. I need the woman to leave where I'm from. See, Abraham said he didn't want a woman from where he was currently living. The land he was living in was Canaan. He didn't want a Canaanite woman. He wanted a woman from back home for his son that understood God and understood covenant. He wanted that. So he went back home. He told his servant to go back to his hometown to find his son a wife. Because he looked at his son, he said his son need a wife. The man needs a wife. So he sends his master servant to go find a wife for his son. And the master servant prays and says, God, listen, Jesus, please, if you hear me, make sure this woman does X, Y, and Z, and that's the woman I know is for my master's son. And I pray that she'd be willing to come with me, even though I don't have a picture of this man. I ain't got this man's Instagram. I don't have proof of employment. I don't know his net worth. I don't know anything off the top of my head. But what I do know is that he's a man of God. And I pray that it's enough for her to come. And so he goes and he meets this woman. And he's like, man, I don't know if she's going to come back, because I don't have any of the things we would need. What Abraham asked his master servant to do was countercultural. At the time, family, they had to provide proof. They had to have a betrothal meeting. They had to have all these different things before they would ever bring the wife to the husband. But in every story that you see in the Bible, the woman was brought to the man. And some of y'all are resisting moving. That was the number one thing these women did. They didn't have a job opportunity. They didn't have the picture of the man, or they had seen the man. No, they had no idea what was on the other side of that well. Rebekah had no idea that on the other side of that well was going to be a man that would lead to promise, that would have her written in the Bible, a text, the most read text, the most popular book that's ever been, ever done, best-selling book of all time. She left everything. She didn't have to. She came from a family of means. But Abraham said, I'm praying that God would send an angel before me, or before you, that this woman would be willing to leave her land to come back with you. Because I'm not going to send my son to my hometown. She got to come here. So we see with Rebekah's story, she meets this man at the well. She just friendly, feeding him or giving him something to drink, giving his camel something to drink. Like, she just friendly, just generous, just loving, just humble. And she didn't even know that encounter, if she did not do those things, her life wouldn't have changed. Like, if she would have went there and been like, who are you? Why should I give your camel something to drink? Why should I give you something to drink? I don't even know you. She wouldn't have been in promise. She wouldn't even been in the Bible. We would never even hear of this woman. If she didn't make a move, a bold move, we would not be talking about Rebekah today. Because she had to have the character of a woman that would be humble and would be a servant. And not a servant like, demeaning. No, she had a servant nature. She had a helpmate nature. She was beautiful. She was humble. She was friendly. And she was not too good to serve. Right? And so again, that character unlocked the ability to be able to be seen as an option. Then from there, she had to have a level of faith that she didn't need to have. Because let's be real, Rebekah could have had another man. Rebekah could have said, nah, I'm going to wait on a man that I can see. I'm going to wait on a man that come to my family the right way. I'm going to wait on a man that does it this way. I'm going to wait on a man that does it the way that I want it to be done. No, she took a leap of faith. It wasn't off of no information. She had enough information to know that this was obviously a move from God. This was obviously a powerful man of God that was sending for her. She had enough discernment to know that the risk was worth it. And she was right. But she had to take a leap of faith. Family, ladies and gentlemen, you have to take a leap of faith sometimes. It may not just be the man, it sometimes may be the woman. But I feel like we have these Disney stories where we expect men to just show up in our hometown, show up where we want them to be. Our comfort zones are not disrupted, and we think that's purpose. No, it's not. It's settling. God didn't tell these women to pursue these men. Rebekah did not pursue Isaac. Zipporah did not pursue Moses. And even in the end, once Boaz had the idea that this woman was somewhat interested in him, he took it to the next level. He finished the job. Somebody passed him the ball. He dunked it. All he needed was a pass. He was going to score. Isaac, when he decides to he sees this woman, Isaac, they say he meditated in the field. He meditated in the field, minding his business, meditating in the field. He see a camel come up. He see a woman on the camel, riding with his servant. Servant tells him, hey, listen, this is the woman that I found. Yo, daddy told me this is what we were doing, blah, 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 blah. She passed the test. He gives him all he need to know. Isaac take her off the camel and brings her into his mother's tent. And it says he married her on sight. See, it wasn't just about the fact that these men or these women, should I say, these women made a faith move, but God used that faith move, and immediately on sight, these women were married immediately. God honored their faith. And family, I'm not saying you just move to a random city. I'm not saying you just go with whatever. You obviously go before wise counsel. You obviously do the right, when you feel God is prompting you to go to a place, you really seek the Lord out. You really try to hear what God is telling you. But some of us, we're so comfortable. We know God is prompting us to do something. But there's no story in the Bible that didn't require faith. Big faith. The type of faith that would move when you didn't have to. Leave your comfort zone. Start a new life in a new land with new people. And all you have is your faith and your trust in God. I'm not saying you move you. I'm saying when God moves you. When God moves you, do you move? And there's a lot of women that are watching me right now. This is against everything you could think. I'm not leaving my family. I'm not leaving what I know. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Will you settle then? I'm not settling. I'm going after everything God has for me. Every miracle in the Bible required our participation. Some of us just want a miracle to happen, and sometimes it does. But when I'm talking to the ladies today, when we are working with God, when God is asking us to move, we participate in the miracles he wants to do for us. And sometimes it requires a move, a leaving of your job. Family, I'll tell you, God asked me to not renew my lease. And I'm like, where am I going to go? I had no idea where God was going to lead me. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have an understanding. All I had was a word. I prayed and I fasted. And God made it clear. And then I was like, well, I need this. I need that. I need this. God was like, nah, you need me. I am the answer. You don't need that. You don't need this. You need me. Am I enough? Am I enough? If I don't answer another question, but I told you to move, am I enough? You're more than enough, God. You're more than enough. So I hope somebody's inspired. I hope somebody's inspired to move radically for God. Because when I tell you the mountains that I thought would be mountains are actually valleys. God has moved those mountains. The things that I thought would be problems weren't problems. But I had to take a step of faith. Everything I was afraid of didn't happen. Everything that I thought was going to be a problem wasn't a problem. Everything that I thought was my answer wasn't the answer. Like Rebekah, I'm leaving a land. I don't know. I don't know what God has for me on the other side. The master servants like the Holy Spirit leading me and guiding me to this new world. And my test, which will be the test of a lot of women on here, is will you move? Will you move? That was Rebekah's test. Will you move? That was Esther's test. Will you move? That was Ruth's test. Will you move? Or will you go back to what's familiar? Will you go back to your hometown with your homegirls and your homeboys and your family that you've been raised with? Will you move? Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. I appreciate you guys. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, y'all. Let's not just be every once in a while. Let's become Framily, okay? Friends that are family, okay? Join my Framily today.